You're about to hear a recording of the mating calls of some lovesick toads. Listen. These mating calls were recorded by one of these three men. What is your name, please?
My name is Kenneth Porter.
My name is Kenneth Porter.
My name is Kenneth Porter.
Only one of these men is the real Kenneth Porter. The other two are imposters and will try to fool this panel. Tom Poston, Peggy Cass, actor Elliott Reid, and Kitty Carlisle, on To Tell the Truth with your host, Bud Collins.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and welcome once again to Tell the Truth, brought to you this week by Winston Filter Cigarettes. Good evening, panel.
We haven't.
What is this musical chairs you're going through?
They gave up.
You didn't, huh?
Yeah, there was
No.
Don't open it yet.
Oh,
Wait till you're told. You're too eager. Tonight's program, ladies and gentlemen, marks the beginning of our 8th year on To Tell the Truth. And I know I speak for the panel and myself when we say our sincere and heartfelt thanks to you for making this possible. Without you, it would not have been. Elliott, welcome to Tell the Truth. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you, Bud. It's joyful to be here, having been a long-time fan of this program. It's been a lovely Christmas present to know I was going to be with you tonight.
Well, I want to tell you that you're not the easiest guy to have. He's one of the busiest guys in the business. What have you got on schedule now?
Well, on Christmas Day, a glowing Technicolor rollicking comedy opened at the Victoria Theater.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to do the best I can with it.
Name of?
For Paramount and Dean. And it's called Somebody's Been Sleeping in My Bed. And strangely enough, in spite of its title, it is not about the three bears.
Or even Goldilocks.
It's about Dean Martin.
And you're also appearing in The Thrill of It All and The Wheeler Dealers, just to name a few of this man's hits that are going. You are busy. We're going to keep you busy right now, as a matter of fact. So open that envelope that's before you, if you will, for the first time, and follow along as I read. I, Kenneth Porter, am a zoologist. My specific interest is in the toad. More specifically, I'm interested in the mating call of the toad. There are about 30 different varieties of toads in the world. To avoid confusion, the male mating call has become highly developed and ranges from a high chirp for one species to a deep baroom for another. It is unfortunate that the toad's eyesight is not as highly developed as its mating instinct. I once watched a male toad spend considerable time and energy paying court to an apple. Signed, Kenneth Porter. Panel, I present to you three gentlemen, all claiming to be Kenneth Porter, expert on toads. And we'd start the questioning with Peggy Cass. Peggy?
Thank you, Bud. At number 2, that toad that goes baroom, is that a big toad?
Yes, it's about a 3-inch toad, which is a good size one.
And is the one that goes chirp a little toad? I mean, is it
Yes.
the size of the throat box that makes...
Much smaller.
Number 3, there's a children's book that a toad is the hero of. Do you know what that book is?
Not unless it would be The Wind in the Willows.
Number 1, is a bullfrog the same as a toad?
No, it is not.
Number 3, what's the difference between a toad and a bullfrog?
The most obvious difference would be in the skin. The toads tend to have a warty skin. Frogs tend to have a smoother skin, moist skin. There are other differences.
Elliott Reid.
Number 1, this seems interesting but rather bizarre calling. What first aroused your interest in toadology, if I may coin a word?
Well, actually, sir, I've been interested in man's evolution, and the study of toads and their mating calls has enabled me to secure sufficient data to develop some relationships between genetics and the eventual evolution of man.
But what made you choose toads? You felt they were the best beginning for
That
the
is correct.
evolutionary cycle. I see. Number 2, I would like to follow Peggy's question on the sound of these creatures. What is the high chirp toad? What does that represent in the evolutionary, as opposed to the varoom?
It doesn't represent anything in the evolutionary cycle. It's merely the size of the toad and the sacs on the side of the throat.
Kitty Carlisle.
Number 3, it says here to avoid confusion, the male mating call. Confusion to whom?
To the female toads.
As opposed to an apple, I suppose.
Very good.
Number 1, what's the difference between a tree frog and a toad?
A tree frog is equipped with little suction cups on the bottom of its feet.
Stay on the tree.
Stay on the tree.
Thank you. Number 2, do frogs give warts?
Oh, no, not even toads.
Toads don't give warts either?
No.
Number 3, zoologically speaking, how old is the toad?
As toads?
Qua toad, I suppose.
20, 30 million years old.
How much?
20 or 30 million.
20 or 30
And
million.
it hasn't changed all that time.
Tom Poston.
Thank you, Bud. Number 3, what is a hellbender?
Hellbender is a type of lizard.
Number 2, how is it related to a toad?
Well, it's a lizard and comes in another genera altogether. The toad, bufo, and the lizard, of course, is a reptile.
What is bufo, number 1?
Bufo is a classification, the Latin derivation for toads.
Number 1, how does a toad, is a horned toad part of the toad family?
A horned toad is, again, a misnomer. A horned toad has 2 little glands on top of the back of its head. But essentially, a horned toad is a lizard and a member of the reptile family.
That's all the time we have, I'm sorry to say. So will you kindly take your ballots now and mark them at once? Without change, without consultation, of course. As you vote now for number 1, or number 2, or number 3. And our team of challengers will win, of course, $250 to represent each and every incorrect vote indulged in by our panelists. Have you all marked your ballots? All right, Tom, for whom did you vote?
I voted for number 3 because he didn't know as much as the other 2. And I have found that because of the careful work that's done by the staff here in training the liars, that they end up knowing a lot of things that the real one never heard of.
Peggy Cass, what is your vote?
I voted for number 3 because I thought he did know more than the other 2. He seemed very smart to me about their skin condition and all that stuff. I thought you got warts from frogs. They learned something.
Toads.
Elliott,
You don't get warts from.
what is your choice?
Well, I am completely convinced of the authenticity of all 3 of these gentlemen. However, having to make a choice, I was impressed by the quiet, knowledgeable manner, indeed all 3, but number 1 particularly impressed me, so I think it's number 1.
And Kitty, which one do you think it is?
I voted for number 3. I think they're all 3 scientists, for sure. But I think number 1 is the varoom expert.
All right.
Number 3.
Split up rather closely to unanimity as we have 3 for number 3 and 1 for number 1. Let's go into our own little charm circle where we all like to be, hoping it's the truth circle, as we learn now which one of these gentlemen actually is the expert on toads. So will the real Kenneth Porter please stand up?
Oh.
Take a back seat to no one. You did a good job. You really did. Actually, Dr. Porter is an assistant professor of zoology at the University of Denver. Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
How long have you been pursuing this particular study?
Approximately 4 years.
And what did get you interested in it, as opposed to anything else?
Oh, toads are relatively easy to study and are interesting from the standpoint of mating calls and so on.
I notice tree toads have not only a higher pitched call, but it's almost a melodic little call they have. It doesn't
Yes,
sound
oftentimes tree frogs are very similar to cricket calls.
Yes, very, very, quite melodic. Thank you, sir. Number 1, what is your real name and what do you really do?
My name is Bill Kitchelt. I'm a supervisor in the direct mail division of the DuPont Company of Wilmington, Delaware.
And number 2, what is your real name and what do you do, sir?
I'm Mel Evans. I'm in the publishing business, M. Evans and Company Books.
it's a great treat to have you all here. I'm sorry that the take-home isn't quite as much as it might have been had they been more incorrect, but they were correct. They were smart and on edge tonight. But there was one incorrect vote at $250 coming your way from Winston Filler Cigarettes, as well as a carton of Winston's on your way out. Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing your evening with us. Good night, and God bless you. Okay, panel, rest easy now and all look at this brief film. Now let's meet our next team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Gene Eschenbrenner. My name is Gene Eschenbrenner.
My name is Gene Eschenbrenner.
Follow along with me, if you will, on this one, panel. I, Gene Eschenbrenner, up to a month ago, was a college student. I now find myself in the business of designing and manufacturing a special kind of sportswear. As a surfboard rider, I realized that what was badly needed by surfers was a style of shorts cut loose enough to allow freedom for the frantic activity necessary to balance on the slippery boards as they ride the waves into the beach. The stores didn't have what I wanted, so I decided to design them myself. I bought some material, sat down at my mother's sewing machine, and stitched up a few trial pairs. They caught on, and I now have more orders than I can fill. Although I have enlisted help, I still spend as much time at the sewing machine as I can. These shorts, which you see here, are lace-fastened and come in a variety of wild prints. We call our shorts baggies. Signed, Gene Eschenbrenner. Panel, these three persons all claim to be Gene Eschenbrenner, designer of so-called baggies. We start this cross-examination with Tom Poston, if we may. Tom?
Oh, thank you. Number one, where'd you go to school?
University of Miami.
Miami. Number two, where'd you go to school?
University of Hawaii.
Hawaii. Oh, number three, where's your school?
Santa Barbara Junior College.
Santa Barbara. Well, I'll go back to number one. Is there good surfing in Miami?
Not as good as on the West Coast.
Number two, what is a good surfing beach in California, Southern California?
Well, Rincon is the only one I know. I've never surfed there.
Oh. Number three, do you know, you being a California girl, where's a good beach in California?
Well, I've always gone to Sunset Beach, which is about 30 miles from Santa Barbara.
Oh, I see. Number...
Peggy.
Number three, where is the international surfing, what beach is the international surfing tournament held out in Hawaii?
I'm afraid I don't know.
Number two, do you know?
It's been held for several years at Makaha.
Number one, where's San Onofre?
It's on the West Coast.
Number three, is that considered a good surfing beach?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Number two, what does it mean to ding your board?
It's to put a little dent or bump in it.
Number three, who's Greg Knoll?
He's a famous surfer. He also makes surfboards.
Hmm?
He's a famous surfer and also makes surfboards. Elliott.
Number one, lately, surfboarding has become so popular that we even have it in show business. For instance, there is a singer who's quite well known who has, I think, several records out, and he's known as the surf singer or something. What is his name?
Dick Dale.
Dick Dale. Number two, do you agree with that?
Yes, I do.
Number three?
Elvis Presley.
Pardon me?
Elvis Presley.
Elvis Presley on surfs. One doesn't think of it. Number one, if I may, how is it that you were able to sit down at your mother's sewing machine and just like that, whip off a pair of shorts?
Well, it wasn't just like that. I had been tapering my pants and shirts for quite some time.
I see.
Kitty.
Number two, what is a necky?
A necky?
Necchi. Do you know number three?
A necky is a game that you play on your surfboard.
Thank you.
And other places, too.
Yeah.
Number one, are you wearing the same kind of surf shorts as number three?
Not the same print, no.
But it's the same style?
Same make, yes,
Number three, are those shorts bigger than anybody else's? They don't look bigger.
They were tapered.
Tapered. Number three, when did you go to this University of Santa Barbara?
Well, I just started in September.
This September. Number two.
And that's all the time we have, so make sure and line up your surfboards and mark your ballots right now, if you will, please, panel. Vote at once. No change and no consultation, of course, as you vote for number one, or for number two, or if you wish, for number three. All ballots marked? All right. Tom, for whom did you vote this time?
Well, I know that I knew that a necky wasn't like a huggy and kissy. It was the name of a sewing machine, and I figured that the right one should have known. And she didn't ask number one, so I voted for one.
Peggy.
Well, I voted for number 2 because they don't have such good surfing in Miami Beach. The waves aren't long enough, but Macau is where they do hold that tournament and everything, and number 2 knew that. And besides, in Hawaii, they're swell surfers, and that's where he's from, unless he's lying.
Elliott, which one do you think is the real one?
Well, it's very curious. I hardly talked to number 2 at all, and yet, and I hope this is all right to say, his name is a German name, and his features, and I mean this in the most complimentary sense possible, strike me as somewhat German. And he knew about Dick Dale, too, so I'm voting for number 2.
All right, Kitty.
I voted for number 2 also because of the fact that a necky is a sewing machine, and I think a girl would know that. Perhaps a fella who's using the sewing machine wouldn't. And I also think that number 2 looks as though he has enough patience to sit down and figure out a sewing machine, which is not easy for a fella. I don't know how to use one myself.
And again, we have the same kind of a lineup, since 3 of you have gone for the same one and 1 for the other. That kind of a split vote sometimes leads to problems, but let's see what it does this time as we find out which one of these charming persons actually is the real designer of the so-called baggies for surfboarding. So will the real Gene Eschenbrenner please stand up?
Oh!
Good job of fooling. Very good, very good.
I should have stayed on number 1 with the way
I guess you should have. Would have done better this time. Let's see now, number 2, you got most of the votes. What is your real name and what do you really do?
My name is Todd Mann. I'm a steel salesman with Jones & Laughlin Steel Corporation.
And number 3, what is your real name and what do you do?
My name is Carol Phipps, and I'm a railroad hostess on the Atlantic Coastline Railroad, Florida Special.
Well, we thank you. We checked the score happily for you because there were 3 incorrect votes and at $250 each. You've added it ahead of me, I'm sure. It's $750, which you take along from Winston Cigarettes, as well as a carton of Winston's for you on your way out. And we thank you very much and hope you had just half as much fun as you brought to us. Good night and God bless you. We'll put the panel back to work in just a moment. Meantime, here's something you'll enjoy. This is our 3rd team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Monsignor John Patrick Carroll-Abbing.
My name is Monsignor John Patrick Carroll-Abbing.
My name is Monsignor John Patrick Carroll-Abbing.
Please follow along with me, if you will, panel. I, Monsignor John Patrick Carroll-Abbing, was born in Dublin, Ireland, but found my life work elsewhere. I am the founder and director of the Boys' Towns of Italy. Right after the war, with one inadequate facility, we began to take in and educate orphaned and derelict children who were living like animals in the rubble of their war-shattered towns and cities. Today, there are 9 boys' towns throughout Italy with an enrollment of some 2,400. Our boys' towns are self-sufficient, democratic communities with their own schools, farms, and workshops. Each has its own mayor, banking system, and court of law. The boys work and receive their wages in Boys Town currency, which is used to pay for food, lodging, and recreation. In this way, we have returned to society more than 10,000 young people who have been given a fighting chance to become useful citizens in a difficult and grown-up world. Signed, Monsignor John Patrick Carroll-Abbing. Panel, these 3 gentlemen, as you heard, all claim to be Monsignor John Patrick Carroll-Abbing, founder and director of the Boys' Towns in Italy. May we start with Elliott Reid. Elliott?
Yes, Monsignor, if I may say so, whichever of you is Monsignor John Patrick Carroll-Abbing, we're honored by all of your presences here. I'd like to ask number 1, please, where in Italy was your first Boys' Town established?
At Rome.
In the city of Rome. And what year was that?
1945.
1945. And number 2, would you tell me, please, where, when you left Dublin?
When, in 1938.
Originally, yes. And where did you go?
Kitty.
Monsignor, number 3, what were you doing in Italy when you discovered this terrible condition?
I was working in the Vatican.
Thank you. Number one, do these boys' towns go straight through what we would call a college curriculum or through high school?
With American standards, I would say through high school.
Through high school. Number two, do you take them at kindergarten age?
No, they're usually about 10 years of age.
10. And number three, where do they come from now?
They're orphans, and some of them are foundlings, or some of them maybe have fathers in prison, or...
Thank you.
Tom.
Thank you. Number 3, who is Don Murray?
He's an actor.
What association does he have with the boys' towns of Italy? Do you know?
No particular association, no.
No? Do you agree with that, number 2?
He's done a lot for the boys' towns of Italy.
Yes, number 1, he directed and produced and starred in a motion picture. Do you know what the name of that motion picture was?
I don't know.
I only bring Don up because he is so terribly interested in this, and he has been. Number 3, when did the boys' town start in Italy?
1945.
Thank you.
Peggy.
And number 2, do you raise food for sale in the markets?
Yes, we do.
Number 3, then you support the children and you have stuff left over to sell on the open market as
In
well.
some products, yes.
Number 1, when the boys get paid in your currency, when they leave Boys Town, do you make that into Italian lira and give them a start with that money that you've made on the...
Oh, yes.
Number 2, are you supported mostly by donations, or are you sort of self-sufficient?
Well, we try to be self-supporting. We are not, in fact.
Number 3, what order are you, please?
I'm a secular priest.
Thank you. Number 2, what was the name of the interpreter into English of Pope John the 23rd?
I don't know.
Do you know number 1?
I'm afraid that's all the time we have. We have to leave it right there. With what information you have gleaned, mark your ballots and come up with the right answer if you can as to which one is the real one. No consultation permitted, of course, as you vote for number 1, number 2, or number 3. All ballots marked? All right, looks like they are now. Tom, for whom?
Well, I voted for number 3. I was kind of tricky there with something that I didn't mean to be tricky about. Don doesn't have to do necessarily with the boys' towns of Italy, but he's very interested in the children of Europe who were displaced persons by the war.
Peggy.
I voted for number 1 because he didn't get a chance to answer who the interpreter was, but he looked as though he could have, and he was an Irishman because I had an audience and he interpreted in a very broad brogue, so that's why I voted for number 1.
Elliott, what is your choice?
Well, partly I'm used to voting at that number 1 table, it appears, and it's a rash move on my part. At the same time, I think number 1 has a rather Irish twinkle to his face and a slight touch of Ireland in his speech, and so I'm guessing it's number 1.
You thought the last one was German, too.
That's true.
All right, Kitty, what is your vote?
I'm splitting completely the vote. I voted for number 2. I must say I'm so moved by the story that I really have no reasons. Just number 2.
Now, this is the most widely split vote yet tonight. Let's see how it turns out as we learn the truth now, and only the truth, and nothing but the truth, as we find out which of these gentlemen actually is the real founder and director of the boys' towns of Italy. So, will the real Monsignor John Patrick Carroll-Abbing please stand up? Who got it? John. Well, we thank you very much. Number 1, what is your real name, sir, and what do you really do?
My name is Thomas F. Murphy. I'm a production planner for radio engineering laboratories in Long Island City.
And number 2, may we have the same information from you, your real name and what you really do, sir?
My name is John Ruloff. I am the United States manager for the Guinness Brewery.
Well, gentlemen, you certainly brought us a good time tonight, and a good job of fooling you did, too, because there again we have 3 incorrect, and 3 times $250 means that from Winston Filler Cigarettes coming your way is the sum total of $750, gentlemen. You take it with our thanks, and on your way out there will be, of course, a carton of filter Winstons for you, and hope that you enjoyed your visit to us. We certainly thoroughly enjoyed having you here. Good night, and God bless you. As I'm sure you probably guessed in advance, Monsignor Carroll-Abbing's winnings will be sent to the boys' towns of Italy, where his work. Panel, good night to all of you, too. See you next week. See you tomorrow on the daytime show, of course. In the meantime, don't forget, on behalf of Winston Cigarettes, to tell the truth. And may I say to all of you, a very happy New Year.
To Tell the Truth is a Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production. Truth has been brought to you by Winston Filter Cigarettes. Winston tastes good like a cigarette should. Johnny Olson speaking. For To Tell the Truth, the preceding program was recorded.